All right. Good morning, Sonder fam. Yes, indeed. If you were not aware, it is the time change for daylight saving time, unless you're, I think, in Arizona. I don't think they move their clocks, but I think most of the rest of us do. Hawaii probably doesn't. Um, and Indiana, part of Indiana used to not, but I'm not sure if they still do that or not. So, generally speaking, the majority of us set back our clocks today, which is nice because I got another hour of sleep. So it's definitely nice when I have these early morning setups. So my name is Maya, and I am coming to you from Denver, Colorado, where it is a lovely going to be a lovely day. It's going to be 75. Last weekend was, I guess, very cold. We weren't here. And then it's going to be warm for the next few days, and then we've got snow coming again on Wednesday, which is fine because that's kind of what happens in the fall/winter here in Colorado. But it's always kind of tricky because it's that kind of up and down temperature, and you never know what to wear. What you wear in the morning, you might be too hot by afternoon. So welcome to all of our first time folks. I saw a few folks who said this is their first social. Welcome. This is one of our setup socials. So we have weekly setup socials and we have monthly setup socials. And those are pretty much the same. It really helps you get things set up in your journal. So these are a little bit different from our journaling socials, where we spend some time with some of the journaling prompts and some of the different things. So we hope you join us for those as well. We have different kinds of things that happen. So just a quick reminder, make sure that you set your chat to everyone. That little blue box, you see that little picture there where it says set your Zoom chat to everyone if you want to share with us, Sonder fam. Otherwise, it has a tendency to flip back to host and panelist, especially if you're on a phone. So when it does that, the only people who see it are myself and the lovely Jennifer O, who is in Texas, and she is stage managing for me here today. So she will be helping keep an eye on the chat. But if you don't have it set to everyone, if you just have it set to host and panelist, Jennifer and I are the only ones who see it. So if you're ever wondering, like, why is no one answering my question, or why is no one responding, that could be why. And Jennifer will often remind you in the chat, like, oh, make sure you flip that back. So let's jump in here. Also, just a quick reminder of some of our community guidelines, right? We want to make sure that this is a safe and supportive space. So we ask that you're kind and courteous to both yourself and to others. No promotions or spam. We respect everyone's privacy here. No hate speech or bullying, obviously. Limiting those repetitive product and accessory questions. It's fine if you want to ask about pins that don't bleed or stickers that folks are using. But generally speaking, the best place to ask those kinds of questions is in Sonder Club, because then folks can put in some links and you kind of get more of a chance to get more responses. If you have any customer care inquiries, like issue with your subscription, issue with billing, you need to change your address, those kinds of things, we ask that you direct those to hello@silkandsonder.com. That's our headquarters, that's our customer care folks. Jennifer and I do not have access to your account, so we can't look anything up and we can't help you with any of that. Just be sure you give them a little bit of time to respond. They are a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 kind of workspace. So sometimes they don't get back to you immediately. I know in our world of expecting immediate responses, sometimes it can feel like they're not responding, but they will. Also, make sure if you have Gmail that you're checking your promotions tab, because a lot of times the Silk and Sonder emails end up there. Or you might also want to check spam filters, those kinds of things, because sometimes the responses come through there as well. And then ultimately, remember that Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So if there's ever anything that we're working on that you're like, oh, this really isn't jiving with me, and this kind of isn't where the space I want to be in, or the prompt I want to answer, or whatever's kind of happening, feel free to do what you need to do. Like if the music's not hitting you right, you can always mute it, and we have the closed captioning on so you can see, kind of what I'm saying, and if I come back, those kinds of things. So again, this is for you. This hour is for you to get things set up. So don't feel like you have to participate or you have to do things a certain way. There is no right or wrong way to Sonder, right? And this week we are going, well, this month, actually, you probably have seen, we are diving into this theme of nostalgia, right? And this has definitely been one I've seen a lot of folks in Sonder Club, and I've seen in some of the socials where initially this might feel like maybe a bristly theme, right? You're kind of like, oh, maybe I didn't have a great childhood. Maybe I have some past trauma. Maybe I had some bad things happen. Feeling a little like this doesn't feel good. So first of all, I just want to say, like, if this theme doesn't feel good, you don't have to follow this theme, right? You can you can pick something from a different month. You can pick your own. You can just do what you need to do for yourself. But I do encourage you to, sometimes the themes that don't resonate with me right away are the ones that I need to maybe spend a little time with, right? And nostalgia doesn't necessarily mean thinking of all the perfect times, thinking of all the fabulous times, right? I think we all sometimes fall into that trap of thinking that everybody else, other people's families had those perfect Norman Rockwell, picturesque lives, right? Where everything was great and everyone was happy and there were no problems and everything went perfectly, right? And honestly, I have never talked to a single person that has had that kind of a past, right? We all have bumps. We all have issues. We all have things that maybe we've gotten past and maybe we haven't. Maybe we're still, those things kind of still stick in the back of our head, right? Certainly with COVID in 2020, a lot of things, mental health issues kind of came up for folks. We've got a lot of things going on. So keep in mind, nostalgia can be something that's um, just something that makes you happy, something that could be small, something that could be, Jennifer and I were talking about this, sometimes just thinking about maybe your favorite candy that you used to get on Halloween, or when I went to my knitting retreat last month, we all started talking about the games, board games that we played when we were kids, right? So I Googled like board games from the 80s and, found all, board games from the 70s. And you find all these fun games like, remember Trouble, when you could pop the little popper and the dice would roll around, right? So keep in mind, nostalgia doesn't have to be thinking back and wishing for a time that was perfect, right? And you also, yeah, like Lisa is saying, we don't have to go all the way back to childhood. Lisa's in her 50s. I'm in my 50s also. Nostalgia can be more focused on children's childhood. So again, use your own time frame, use what works for you. Don't feel like you're stuck in some sort of perfect thing that you didn't have and feeling bad for that, right? So I encourage you to try to dip your toe a little bit in this idea of nostalgia. We're going to have a fun little mind map activity today. We've got lots of other activities in some of the other socials. So give it a chance, right? Take a deep breath. Think about what that looks like. And I also would encourage you to read Meha's letter. So our founder, she always writes this lovely little letter. And now you can find it on the app, I think, where it says like this month's theme is nostalgia. And you can click on the little question mark and the letter will show up there, right? It's kind of like her little letter. But she talks about at the end, go back to your past as a fascinated anthropologist. Relive and relish in some of those memories of the people, places, and experience you loved, and reimagine what it might feel like to create a variation of that, right? So just give yourself some grace with this, see kind of how it works. So don't get too hung up in some of the what we think we should be doing, right, for nostalgia. So today we are going to go over this nostalgia mind map. We do the mind map at our weekly setups. Every week we kind of dig into a new different area. So we're going to do that today. We're going to do our rosebud thorn activity, which is good to reflect on the past week. We're going to work on our weekly setup and then we're going to close out. And I always use these two cartoons to remind, these little drawings to remind folks of a couple of things. First of all, there's room for you here just as you are. If things are going well, if you're having some successes, if you're got a promotion, maybe you got a promotion, maybe you're in a fabulous new relationship, your kids are doing great in school, things are going really well for you, share that with us. We love to celebrate. We love to hear what great things are happening with our Sonder fam. But conversely, because we know life is full of ups and downs, we have folks that are dealing with a lot of different things. We have folks that have family members who are ill. They themselves are ill. We have a lot of Sonder fam who are dealing with cancer, either their own or a family member. They may be folks who have lost a job, people who are in a toxic job, things that are bumpy, right? And things that aren't going well, having some financial rocky roads at some time. You can share that with us as well. We are not kind of Pollyanna trying to make everything look like everything's perfect, right? We know that things are ups and downs. So you can share that with us too. Don't feel like you're being a downer or anything like that. I think it's very important to recognize that people are kind of that ups and downs. Oh, Barb, I don't mean to make you tear up. We do always say at Sonder Socials, a lot of times we need tissue because there's a lot of times some deep thinking there. The other thing that the other picture that I have on there is the way you feel matters, and no emotion you feel is bad or unworthy. So remember, no one can tell you how you should feel about something, right? That's the worst thing someone can do, is say, you shouldn't be sad about that. You shouldn't be angry about that. You shouldn't be frustrated about that, right? You can't tell somebody how to feel. Nobody can tell you how to feel. Your feelings are real and valid. So we're here to feel the feels. Hugs to everybody who are dealing with those stressful things. Cheers to those who are having the good things. And again, we're here, we're a family. We're here to kind of share all of those ups and downs, right? So let's dive into that nostalgia mind map. So we're going to do this over 4 weekends. Sometimes we have 5 weekends to dig in, but this month we're going to do 4 weekends, right? So some people will like to divide up a page, one of the blank pages, into 4 quadrants. And we're going to focus on kind of the role nostalgia plays, kind of a little deep dig into some different areas, right? So this week we are going to focus on this idea of bliss and excitement. So what I want you to do is to think about a time when you experience pure bliss or excitement. It can be something last week. It can be something last month. It can be something 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 1 year ago, right? Just really kind of think about what this feels like, right? And so here's mine, and you can't really see. I should have used different markers because I use kind of the erasable highlighters. I noticed it's very, very light, but I kind of have these little clouds for each one, right? And yeah, so this is good. You can do this on the last page of your journal. I like to do it often on, let's see, it's the page, I think right after the calendar. So it's like on page 7. Oftentimes that will be blank. And then I just kind of have the 4 little quadrants because each week will tell you which new area we're going to dig into. So what I thought of when I thought of this idea of times when I found pure bliss or times when I found excitement, anytime I'm snuggling with a little animal, kitties, puppies, anything like that, that's always they're just so happy to snuggle with you, and they purr, or they're snuggling and their little noses and all of that, just definitely feeling of pure bliss. Disneyland trips for me are pure bliss and excitement. And I will tell you, I did not go to Disneyland as a child. I did not take my first trip to Disneyland until I was 18 or 19, I think. But for me, Disneyland is just this very exciting, blissful, happy, fun. My husband always laughs at me because every time we go to Disneyland, I'm always like, oh, walking down Main Street, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm home. It just feels so good, right? Going to concerts. I love going to concerts. They're exciting. They're fun. Everybody's singing. And it's kind of like that Eminem song lyric, right? Where you say, lose yourself in the music, the moment, right? It's just kind of everybody kind of getting into that. Or maybe sometimes just snuggling under a blanket on a cold or rainy day with a good book, or sitting in the sunshine and closing my eyes and just feeling that sun warming my face, just kind of feeling what that feels like, just pure bliss to me, right? So I'm going to play a little bit of music, let you think of a time, things that help you feel that feeling of pure bliss or excitement. You're welcome to share in the chat, and then we'll check back in here in just a moment. Oh, right. And I love that some of you were saying, like, at first you thought maybe this would be tough to do, but the things just start to flow. And again, remember, these can be small things, but they're things that bring you that sense of joy, that sense of happiness. And they can be things as, simple as maybe drinking the first pumpkin spice latte of the season. Or I saw Starbucks now has they have the holiday cups out, right? So maybe that is something that kind of gets you excited to see what the new holiday designs are on the Starbucks cup. Just kind of thinking of these different kinds of, listening to a different song. Maybe you have that one song that you play that just really kind of fills you up with just that sense of joy and happiness, and maybe makes you remember the good things, right? And I love Stephanie, you're not weird, but she says, getting done with my chores on Sunday, so everything's ready for a new week. I think that's lovely. Like, I get very excited when I can get things done or cross things off my list, right? So keep this in mind, and kind of look back on this sometimes when maybe you're feeling a little down, or you're thinking about that idea of nostalgia and you're not quite sure what you want to look at. Look back at these times that you're listing here, and see if that kind of helps as you're going through. And so it's kind of fun. Throughout the month, you'll be able to fill in, excuse me, all these little clouds here. So now we're going to do our rosebud thorn. And so this is going to be, I don't have any page numbers down. I should have wrote these down. Oh, page 30. Thank you, Jennifer. So at the end of each week, we always have some time to reflect on the previous week. Because if you're like me, you tend to barrel through life and you're kind of going from one thing to another, and we don't give ourselves that time to reflect. So this is really that time to kind of reflect. And you can look maybe at pictures on your camera, look at your calendar to help jog your memory for these things. So the first thing we talk about on here is, well, actually, sometimes it's better if we start with a thorn and then we work our way backward, right? So the thorn for me, you've probably heard me say this if you've been on socials with me before, but work meetings. I hate meetings. I hate 3-hour meetings. I hate 4-hour meetings. I hate all day meetings. They drive me nuts. And so thorns are something that's a challenge, something you really don't have much control over, something you just have to deal with on a regular. Yeah, the meetings to plan the next meeting. Yes, Tammy, that makes me, the plan to plan meetings, they make me crazy. So those thorns are, something that happened. Maybe it was unexpected, something that's frustrating, something that maybe you're still dealing with. It impedes your efforts, those kinds of things. Then our bud is something that's an emerging opportunity, maybe something that you're looking forward to, something that might be exciting, something that might lead to that sense of excitement or joy or happiness. So for me, I'm a big Marvel fan. And the Marvels movie opens this weekend, so definitely looking forward to seeing that, hoping that that is good. And I did notice it's like only an hour and a half, so not those 3-hour 3-hour movie marathons. So that's exciting. Definitely looking forward to that. And then the rose is something that was a highlight, something that was just, exciting, something that made you happy. It could be small, it could be big. So for me, this last weekend, my husband and I were in Iceland. It was the second time that we've been there. When we went in 2018, we did not get to see the Northern Lights. We were there in March. But this time, happily, you can tell the hotel that you want a Northern Lights wake up call. And so at 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, they called and said the Northern Lights were out. And so we, pulled on our clothes and ran out and ran down to the waterway. And so this is my picture of getting to see the Northern Lights. And so it was very, very exciting. So that was definitely my rose of the week. I was very excited to get to see those finally. Definitely a bucket list item. So feel free to share with us in the chat. I know some of you have already been sharing those rose, the bud, the thorn, whichever you feel like sharing, and we'll check back in here in just a moment. Right. So hopefully you had some time to reflect back on the week. Like I said, it's so important to really reflect back. I don't, Iceland is not always a rose on my list, right? I don't always have some big, amazing thing as a rose. Sometimes the rose is sitting on the couch with my husband and watching one of our favorite old movies together, right? It does not always have to be the huge thing, but when it is, it's kind of fun. And it's always good to have this. You can look back, when the month ends and we get December, and you can look back on all of these rosebud thorns from the week, and it really kind of helps you remember, it helps ground you in what you did for those weeks and kind of what was happening, because we really do lots of things sometimes and we tend to forget them, right? And sometimes we tend to focus on those thorns. So just keep that in mind, that we always have all of them, right? I had Iceland, and then I had a 3-hour meeting, and I had a 2-hour meeting, right? So got to balance it out, right? Got to balance it out. So let's dive into our weekly planner here. And I want to show you just a few examples. We love to find examples on Sonder Club. So please feel free to, when you post on Sonder Club, you may see your example showing up on here. We don't say anybody's names, but you're always welcome to say, hey, that's mine. So here's some examples of kind of that full page. Right. And this is on page 32. No, yeah, 32. Right. As we dive into this week. Oh, Stephanie, hers is on the right. Love it. Thank you for sharing, Stephanie. And I love how different everybody's is, right? Oh, and Rachel's here. She's the one on the left. Excellent. And I love how I just love seeing different ways that people set these up. They can give such great ideas of things to do, but you can kind of see using bingo, right, and taking a beach trip, and for the habits, talking about enjoying the trip and the long weekend and not trying to track habits, right? And then I love Stephanie's with the positive, powerful, productive, proud, right? I love kind of all those strong words, and she changed her weekly to do to weekly to be, right? So we're going to dive in, spend a little time with each little section, right? So the first one is I want to feel. And I always say that this is how you want to show up for yourself and others this week, right? How do you want to show up? How do you want to be and feel during this week? And so there's lots of words that we can use. We can use a single word, we can use multiple words, you can use stickers, you can use sentences, right? One person said, I want to feel flexible. I have a lot going on this week, and I want to feel like I achieved something at the end of the week. So I need to be flexible, right? So really kind of focusing on what they want this week to look like. So we've got that part. And then I'm going to also take you into the 3 goals, because I think sometimes if we can think of our goals as leading to the feelings, it can kind of help as we set those goals for the week. So first of all, you can use that monthly intentions page on page 9. Remember that thing you filled out maybe a few days ago, right? Good time to look back at that. Your monthly habit tracker. Maybe you can set those goals through the lens of nostalgia. Maybe you want to create some no goals, like things like no alcohol, no doom scrolling, no takeout meals, no impulse spending. Maybe you want to look back at previous weeks and see what outstanding goals are still there. Sometimes our goals take more than a week to accomplish, so you want to bring it forward again to this week. Maybe you want to have a personal challenge for the week, a fitness challenge or a cleaning or decluttering challenge. Self-care, super salad, right? Different kinds of eating. I see lots of great words that are showing up in the chat too, right? People want to feel empowered, consistent, brave, proactive. So now think about, and mellow. Think about how you can set up these goals to help you with that feeling, right? So the one up in the top is saying, enjoy time with family, share gratitude with others, and rest. Prioritize sleep, make a movement plan, increase my effort at work. The one up in the top middle, I like because they have left brain, right brain, and no brain. So they have goals for like a left brain goal, pleasure reading, a right brain goal, drawing, a no brain goal, staying positive. One person has mind, body, spirit for their goals. So they have that kind of organized that way. Another person just has declutter, organize, and clean. You can also repurpose this section. Maybe you have monthly goals, and so you don't necessarily feel like the weekly goal is your jam. So maybe you want to come up with some new words. If you're learning a new language, maybe you want to kind of think of those 3 new words you want to use. I do Duolingo every day. And I feel like there's a whole bunch of new words that I just got this week. So I need to maybe write some of those down. Maybe it's movies or TV shows you want to watch. Maybe it's a playlist. Maybe it's fun activities that you want to do. So think about that feeling and think about those goals. I'll play a little music and let you work on that. And then we'll check back here in just a moment. All right. So lots of good ideas for things that you're going to put in here for your 3 goals. Again, remember, these should be goals that once you accomplish will help you say, yes, this helps me feel this way I want to feel, right? That really kind of helps tie things in and keeps you on track for having that feeling. The other thing I do want to mention is that it doesn't have to be 3, right? Jennifer said this in the chat too, right? You don't have to have 3 major goals. Maybe you have 1 major goal. Maybe you have 2, right? That's absolutely fine. I do not recommend really having more than 3, right? Because 3 is kind of that magic number in terms of what we can accomplish and what we can get done. We have those 3 priorities. Jen, it's okay if you have 4, right? I'm not saying you can't, right? Again, because remember, there's no wrong way to do this, but just remember at the end of the week, if you feel like you weren't really able to fully concentrate on 4, think about what that looks like next week. And think of this all as like an experiment, right? We try out new things every week. How does this work? Did having 4 did that stress me out? Did it make me feel like I was overwhelmed? Did it actually work well, right? I had 4 very targeted, very specific things. I got them done. I'm feeling really good. It really is all about you, right? We can give you lots of suggestions. We can show you what lots of other folks do, but ultimately it's you deciding that this is what is working. And sometimes I change it up every week. Sometimes you might have 4 goals. Sometimes you might have 1 goal, right? Again, it kind of depends on your week. So then we move over to those to-dos. And I'm going to show you the to-dos and the habit activity together, just because I think some folks, depending on what they have on there, it kind of mixes things up and kind of think about where they want things. So in here, you can obviously just have a straight up to-do list, right? Just kind of bullet point things out, things you need to do. Maybe you frame it in terms of a ta-da list, right? Ta-da, I got these things done, and you write them down as you accomplish them. Maybe you use that Eisenhower matrix, which is in the bottom right-hand corner, where you kind of look at the things you have to do and then you decide where you would put them on the matrix. Are they important and urgent? Are they important, not urgent, not important, urgent, or not important and not urgent? And how you can kind of help maybe you delegate things or you delete some things from your list. Maybe these are things that you want to do. Maybe it's a self-care list. Maybe it's things you don't want to forget for the week. And again, remember thinking about those goals. The results that we want rarely come without a process of gradual steps toward it first. So you can think of these to-dos as those gradual steps. Also, here's a bunch more examples. Again, a bunch more bingos. You can use stickers and doodles. You can do the to-be list, right? Like Stephanie had how she wanted to be for the week. So kind of thinking of those things. Again, there's some examples of, they divided it up into me, family, and home. There's dividing again into different routine, morning and an evening. Maybe you want a morning to do and an evening to do. Lots of different ideas for ways that you can do those bingos. We do love a good bingo here in Sonder Club, right? And then also thinking about how would this work with the habit activity section, right? And a lot of folks ask, like, why do you have the habits here and you also have the monthly habit wheel? The monthly habit wheel is really more for those things that you want to do on a daily basis or a more regular basis all the time, whereas this is more things that are specific maybe to the week. So again, you can always look back at those intentions and your habit tracker to see. I've seen some people write, this is brilliant, right? They have one of their habits is to keep up with their habit tracker, keep up with their mood wheel, right? To remember to remind themselves on a daily basis to go back and work on those. And then where it says goals, the idea with that is like, how many days per week do you want to do these things? You can use that or you can just leave it blank, right? You can see one person wrote hydrate and they left it there. Like that was all they wrote. One person has 3 things: dishes, laundry, and daily ritual, right? One person has kind of the just say no list where they have deleting emails, decluttering, days without sugar, those kinds of things. Those can be good. I usually try to pack my lunch for work and I tell myself I'm going to do that 3 days a week. And then I'll do things like no takeout food or no impulse spending and try to keep myself to those particular habits as well. Oops. So I'll play a little music, cycle through these slides, excuse me, and let us know kind of how you're using that to-do space and how you're using that activity space. And some people just fill it up with stickers and they don't use it at all, right? So again, totally up to you how you want to kind of fill things out. So we'll check back in here in just a moment. All right. Lots of good ideas for things that you want to put in those to-dos. I saw a lot of folks were going to change that into the to-be's, and kind of how they want to be for the week, things that they want to feel, things that they, way they want to approach things. And I loved, I think it was Joni had said, she had the nice quote about something by Walt Whitman talking about approaching life with curiosity, not judgment. If something doesn't work, I'm learning to ask what did and didn't work about it instead of judging myself a failure. It's been really helpful when I extend that curiosity over judgment to others as well. So I love that idea, right? Just be curious, like, okay, I wrote that I was going to, drink 8 glasses of water a day, but then that didn't actually happen. Why didn't it? Did I not have access to the water fountain? Did I get distracted? Maybe I don't really need that much water, right? Like kind of just being kind of curious as opposed to being like, oh, I can't believe I didn't do this again. That's ridiculous. I'm so horrible, right? Like don't beat yourself up about things. Same thing with when other people act certain ways, right? Kind of that approach of like, I wonder what's going on in their life that is making them respond this way and making them react this way. So give yourself some grace, give this, especially the same grace that you give to others, right? As you're kind of going through. And again, this is really kind of a good place to experiment. Try something new for the week. If it works out, you can keep it the same. You can have the same habits and activities from week to week. It's absolutely fine, right? You don't need to change them up if they're working for you. But if they're not working for you, or you just have them on there and you're doing them, but they're not really making a difference, they're not really having an impact, then think about like, okay, do I just put this on here because I do it and I don't really know why? So give yourself some time. Remember that curious anthropologist idea, right? That Meha talked about, like kind of approach things that way. See if you can see yourself outside of yourself and be like, why am I doing things this way? Why did this work? Why didn't this work? And here's our two friends again, their second page, because we're going to flip over here to page 33, which can also be called the B side. One of our facilitators, Katie, likes to call this the B side, right? Because I think this is a good page, and a lot of people repurpose this different ways every week depending on what's going on and what kinds of things they're wanting to track. And some people don't really use it much at all, right? They'll put in stickers or maybe some quotes or use it as a note page or a scratch pad or jot down some things. So it really is up to you, and it really can look very different from week to week. So you see lots of different ways to repurpose that washi tape, kind of covering up some things so that it's not quite as obvious kind of what that section may have been listed for. I love the Brene Brown quote, just kind of right there, and the pretty little stickers. So again, kind of think about what this works for you as you're going through your week, right? So the first one, and I would say this is probably our most popular section to repurpose, is the meal plan. So obviously you can use it to track your meals. You can use it to plan your meals. Some people use different apps for that. Some people don't necessarily do that. So again, kind of up to you. We've seen people use it as a daily affirmations or scriptures. We've seen people using it to track maybe their work schedule or their school study schedule, exercising, cleaning, decluttering, right? I know there's a lot of us that are working on the decluttering of our homes. So maybe kind of talking about different things that they're going to do each day. Maybe using it as a gratitude log, a mindfulness activity planner, end of day reflection. Maybe it's the 7 types of rest, a packing list. I frequently, when I go on trips, I will use it as a packing list. It helps me to keep the overpacking to a minimum, where I can kind of say, okay, these are the outfits I want to wear on each day. These are the things that I need for each day. Maybe it's a self-care planner. Maybe it's a favorite thing. Maybe it's something about nostalgia, different ways to kind of keep track. Here's some other examples of things. Yeah, using the washi tape or just covering up the title kind of can help you as you're repurposing things. So maybe again, affirmations, chores, appointments and socials, keeping track of, the wardrobe tracker or the packing list. Lots of fun ways to do that. And you notice the one on the left, they've used the water droplets. They're kind of color coding for what they're drinking, if it's water, if it's tea, if it's soda, to kind of help them kind of think of how they're getting those liquids in, right? And then we'll also look at the mind body health plan, and I'll give you time to work on each of these. But the mind body health plan, again, different ways. The idea is that these are things that you're doing for your mind and or your body. So you can see some people have kind of a fun little Meatless Monday, TV free Tuesday. So things that are themed for the day. Maybe you could do a bingo in there. The 7 types of rest are that one in the top middle. One person kind of, again, covered with washi tape and wrote down something I did well this week and some ways that I loved others this week, right? So different kinds of things. The person has like they're going to choose one. They gave themselves 3 options for each day. So like on Monday they said I could meditate on the daily ritual, I could take a 15-minute time on the stationary bike, or I could review the September ritual, right? So giving yourself some ideas for different things that you could do on that time. So let me play a little bit of music. I'll let you work on the meal plan and the mind body health plan, and then we'll check back in here in just a moment. All right. So hopefully got some good ideas for things to do with this. Again, if you're like, I don't know that I really need these sections. I don't really know how to, kind of repurpose these. Maybe something will come to you again, using them specifically for what they're designed for, but using them. Oh, Alexandra is going to use the meal plan to only focus on snacks, as I need to figure out why I'm overtly snacking as much as I am these days. Yeah. So kind of keeping track, a lot of times, especially with food, we have a tendency to forget what we've eaten, or we do maybe some mindless things. Maybe you want to keep track of how much time you're spending mindlessly scrolling or mindlessly snacking, or those kinds of things, to help you figure out like, okay, what's happening? What do I need? Maybe I need some different kind of rest. Maybe I need to give myself some more creative feelings. One of the things I notice sometimes is I feel like I'm constantly just consuming content, right? Like I'm reading, I'm, scrolling through and reading the news, I'm reading books, I'm reading things, which is not necessarily bad, but it's just like, I'm watching TV, so it's just like constantly consuming. And I think I'm going to spend some time this week maybe creating. I'm going to work on my knitting. I'm going to maybe do some doodling. I'm going to maybe do some, painting. And believe me, my painting is not anything amazing, but it's just kind of a fun way to create. And sometimes it's really helpful to get yourself out of that consumption mode and give back and do more creating. Maybe it's flower arranging. Maybe you go out and collect some pretty leaves and kind of put those together or press some leaves or those kinds of things. So it's good to kind of use this sometimes to keep track of things so we can actually recognize them, and then we can kind of address maybe what's going on and what we need to look at. So the shopping list, again, can be just a shopping list, right? But you can also use it to maybe, again, bingo's super popular. People use it to write their chores. Some people are doing like a word of the day. Some people will, if you do Wordle, some people kind of track that here as well. Kind of tracking your intentions, again, a packing list, different ways to kind of keep track of some of that. And then people say, what am I supposed to do with this I'm loving box, right? What is that all about? So really, it's just kind of whatever you're loving during the week. Maybe it's last week. Maybe it's something that you're loving going forward. Maybe it's feeling creative or loving me, a few weeks without training, creativity, kitten cuddles in bed. I'm loving myself by, and kind of keeping track there. I'm loving daily rituals. I'm loving books and tea. I'm loving Silk and Sonder journaling. Lots of different things that we can kind of think about, things that we're loving, things that we're enjoying, just kind of a place. Some people put like a song lyric, some people will put a favorite quote. Again, different things that you can do with the space. Some people will just cover it up with some stickers, right? Yeah, so I was noticing, so let's see. So I'm assuming this is not your name, Valley Animal Hospital, but this is what's showing up in the Zoom. But saying I'm trying to figure out like media that was consumed daily in the meal planner. So podcasts, books, shows. It helps me see if it's positive, negative, or too much. It may direct me to pick better media to consume. Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, that's keeping track of things that we have. Again, we have a tendency to kind of forget what we're seeing. So keeping track of what we're watching, feeding our brains is just as important as feeding our bodies, right? And sometimes the things we put in our bodies maybe are not as happy, doesn't make our bodies as happy as it could, right? Depending on different choices. Same thing with our brains, right? Maybe we're reading a lot of really negative news, or we're reading, I have sisters who they love listening to the murder podcasts, and I can't, like, it's too it's too much. But I know there's a lot of people that really love the murder podcast. But so anyway, kind of thinking about that. If you ever need like suggestions for podcasts to listen to, you can always put that into the Sonder Club, right? And ask folks what they're using, what they're listening to. So I did want to show you a couple ways, because I know we have some new folks here, and they're kind of one of the questions we get a lot of times is, what do I do with this weekly setup, right? The daily pages. So here's some examples of things that people have done, tracking highs and lows, doing a brain dump, just kind of things that are kind of floating around in their head, keeping track of their self-care, writing down things that they're doing for their household, tracking events, having maybe some daily to-dos, some chores, some affirmations. This person is the one that has kind of like the Motivation Monday, Transformation Tuesday, Wellness Wednesday. So they're kind of reminding themselves, this is what I'm doing. This is kind of my focus for each day. And then one person uses the one thing for their chores, right? So they have dishes, laundry, and living room up in the one thing. They have a Bible verse, a quote, an affirmation that they're tracking for each day. And then this one, they've got some exercise, again, a brain dump. A lot of times brain dumps are really helpful if you've got a lot of stuff swirling around in your head and you're having a hard time kind of keeping everything there. So just kind of giving yourself like 5 minutes to sit down and write everything that's going through your head, so you can keep it all, you've got it all in one place, and then your brain can be like, the space is cleared up. It's kind of like if you're like me, and you have 5,000 tabs open in your web browser, right? Our brain is often the same thing, where it's got like 5,000 tabs open, and your brain can't function that way. There's too many things. Your brain really can't multitask. I know we like to think that we can multitask, but we don't really. We task switch. So some people are very good at switching tasks, but for everyone, there's some productivity time lost there. So really kind of thinking about how can I maybe kind of put those things down? Things that they accomplished, things that they did for self-care, things they want to remember to do tomorrow. Those are all different things, different ways that you can kind of track. So hopefully that gives you some ideas for things to do. I know I didn't give you any time to write your shopping list, but I figure you can probably handle working on that as we close up. So as always, you saw all these examples are from you in the Sonder fam, right? So please, if you are comfortable sharing any of your pages, any of your sections, share those with us in Sonder Club, and you might see your example pop up in one of our socials. We love to see those in Sonder Club. And believe it or not, we have come to the end of our hour. It's always the fastest hour of any day, much faster than a treadmill hour, right? So we do still have the Refer a Friend program going. You refer a friend with your link, they sign up, you get $10, they get $10. You can upgrade to the annual subscription. There is a savings, but you do have to pay all up front. So just kind of keep that in mind. And we do have a new feedback survey for our socials. So make sure that you fill those out. I think there's some space in there where you can kind of indicate different things you want, or maybe some different times that you want. And we do record these. We put them up in YouTube. Jennifer is probably going to pop that link there in the chat. There is no chat that shows up in those recordings, but they are there. Sometimes the music is redacted for copyright, but it is a place that you can always go if there's not a setup time. So thank you all so much for joining. Jennifer is also popping in some different socials in Eventbrite. There's the coloring page one coming up, a memory lane and nostalgia jar coming up. And always keep in mind, if one of them says they're sold out, you should be able to sign up for the wait list. And oftentimes they will open up more seats. So always make sure that you sign up for that wait list just in case, right? So thank you all so much for being here. It's so lovely to spend time with you on Sunday mornings, anytime really. And Jennifer and I will hopefully see you again soon. So take care, everyone.